Okay. So anyway, so today we are going to be discussing Braver Angels, and I'd like to introduce Anne, who has been a member of the League since 1979 and is a co-founder, co-chair, and ambassador of Braver Angels of Central Oregon. She's a retired learning and behavior specialist and learned early in her career the value of interdisciplinary approach to finding solutions to classroom and school challenges, and continues to embrace the ideas that different viewpoints and approaches can address big problems while they are still small with a better outcome and impact rather than approaching issues from one point of view. Since moving back to Bend in 2019, Anne has increased her involvement in many social, environmental, and political organizations at the local and national levels. She's excited to be giving her first Braver Angels presentation to the League of Women Voters. So welcome, Anne.
This is exciting for me to sit here. Oh. Does this,
It's not working.
it's not working. Maybe I can talk loud enough. Oh, this is my IT guy, my husband. Thank you. Can you hear me? Well, this is a fine kettle of fish.
We heard that.
Oh, yes, there's a button on the back of that, maybe.
There's,
Yeah.
that's better, thank you, Lynn. So I'm gonna start off with a quote from President Lincoln when in one of his, it's attributed to President Lincoln in one of his addresses to the country, where he said, "I met a man I did not like, so I must get to know him better." And those 15 words encompass what Braver Angels is really about, is to reduce the vitriol and even the hatred between people who have sometimes extremely opposite points of view than our own when it comes to politics and other things in general, other issues in our lives. And he definitely knew something about a divided country, and he devoted his presidency to try to bring people together. So Abraham Lincoln is actually a hero in the Braver Angels groups. So thank you, everybody, for coming today, and I have to say I feel right at home here. I'm a member of this Unitarian Fellowship, and the art on the walls, and I encourage you afterwards to take a look at it. I installed this art show, I curated the art for it, and this is the first time today I've seen it because I had another group hang it for me because I was out of town last Sunday. So the show is called In Your Wildest Dreams, and last October, I had a wild dream after hearing a City Club presentation of Braver Angels from Salem come here to the UU and talk about the divisions among us and how to bridge the divide among us. And they played this awesome game, and I thought, wow, and I love games. This group's for me. So there's a group here called the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Group that I belong to. It's one of our 12 social justice programs here at the UU. And right before Thanksgiving of last year, we decided to give a talk called Traversing Tough Talk Around the Turkey Table, or Tofurkey for the vegetarians, because we're all inclusive. And people wanted more of that. So within 2 months' time, I had experienced this fabulous presentation by the Salem group of Brave Angels, and then had an experience here with fellow congregants about what they needed and what they wanted in terms of being able to communicate with family members, especially right before Thanksgiving, and still be a cohesive family unit without destroying one another around the turkey table. So that was my wild dream, was to bring Brave Angels to Central Oregon. And just past March, I finally got a group together of a volunteer leadership team. And the team's comprised of co-chair, event organizer, a debate chair, a debate organizer, and a event moderator. All our workshops are moderated and highly structured with some pretty strict communication guidelines so that keep people in line. And all people are welcome, but not all behavior is welcome. It's essentially why we have these guidelines. It actually, it's called the Brave Angels Way, and I'll review that a little bit later. So Brave Angels Central Oregon is the newest alliance in Oregon. We're the only one on this side of the mountains, on the dry side. We have a 7,000 square mile area and that covers Crook, Deschutes, and Jefferson counties. And so far we have a couple of people from Crook County and none from Jefferson yet that we're working on. We're working on expanding. The main thing was to get our leadership team in place. So we are about ready to hold our first event up in Crooked River soon. It's imperative that we have a balance of conservative and liberal leaning members and leadership. And so we put ourselves in areas to attract both. So it's kind of nice we have a variety of counties to work in. So right now we are searching for a conservative leaning co-chair. Any of you know of anyone that might be interested in balancing myself? I'm liberal leaning. And that's critical to our mission, not just in leadership, but in membership. So if you know of anyone, I have a sign-up sheet to go around later. Please add their name to the list. I'm also interested in having a monthly newsletter, and I want to call it, well, Braver Angel Central Oregon is BACO, so I want to call it BACO Bits. And I just need a publisher for the, or a reporter to do that, so I'm also looking for a reporter. And I have a little joke about BACO. I always want to add an N to the end of the acronym. So it's bacon, because everything's better with bacon. And the N stands for neighbors. So the overarching goal of Braver Angels is to treat each other with humility, respect, being responsible citizens, and forging partnerships with other groups and in the county, in our city. And right now we're forming a partnership with League of Women Voters and SAGE. Do you all know what SAGE is?
No.
It's a senior advocacy, it's for generational equity, for people over 50 to provide volunteerism, resources. Part of that would be monetary, if possible, and mentorships to make sure that next generation coming up can move forward in the civil society, basically. And they are also an umbrella. If you want to volunteer, they can point you in the right direction. my voice sounds scratchy, it's because I just spent a week over at the coast in a very damp environment and different molds in the air than I'm used to. So I apologize for my scratchy voice. So this first slide you're seeing is it's kind of the introductory one to show you our logo. It's blue and red. And oh, just a little aside, I almost painted my fingernails blue and red, so when I talk, I could talk about bridging the divide. So you'll just have to imagine. So today, one of the things we're going to do is participate in some brief discussions and activities. We're going to watch a video of the very first blue-red discussion that took place right after the Clinton-Trump election in 2016. We're going to gain knowledge about how to have better conversations and learn how Braver Angels is having an impact across our country. So we're going to jump right in to an activity. And you could find someone to pair up with, or even a group of 3 would work. Just take 5 minutes and discuss what you have in common about travel.
You want to talk, Molly?
I'll just turn my chair. When I worked, I went all over the globe to travel and got sick of it. So I decided when I retired, I pretty much like airports. It took me a while to get back on top of it.
I have not. The only place I can get out of
Retirement,
and
I did a lot of OET or Odyssey, other groups and places that as a kid I never knew about, but I was like the pyramids or China. So anyway, I'm very lucky to see the world that way as well.
Maybe it's not opposite of everything. I would love to travel. Anywhere really.
You've been to France?
So how do we do that? That's just when you haven't had the same experience. So this is kind of where the real world is. So you're grateful that you got to see the world. I would be grateful if I got to see the
I felt there was some similarities when you first had thoughts about travel being a lot of work and you're tired of the airports and so on. I resonated with all that, even though we still love traveling. I find it to be very difficult, but also very rewarding. So I think
And seeing things that you never dreamed you would see. Because we didn't my dad told me so, you know, and now we're trying to cram a lot in. So, yeah, you never know. So we're going to be able to do this now. It happens.
and even
Yeah.
Born here?
No, almost, no.
Out of your 7.
Yeah.
Europe.
Oh, I retired here in the year 2000. I was born in Florida.
We went to 17 years. So we consider.
I'm gonna give you about one more minute.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, well, it was, you know. I didn't have electricity. We did have electricity, but we had wood stove for heat. That's a lot. So where would you work with this, women voters for a while? I've been a member.
Other European countries.
I belong to the book club and I like
We-
to come to.
We've really only been in France.
What are they reading? Strangest book in the whole world. First time I ever read a review, or the reviewer said, I hate this book. It's called, I just finished it.
We had
I had a read a review and I thought,
a local expert give us advice of where.
nice to watch. And it won a Pulitzer Prize.
So it's.
And the whole review was about how the heck did it win a Pulitzer Prize? It's a horrible book.
And so.
What's your opinion? I thought it was a good, it gave me good deep insight into the turmoils of the Civil War. The story was a bit weird, but it was relatable. I mean, I learned things about how people lived and got by in the Civil War. Carol, I sent a review to Carol and she said she and Naomi were reading the book and there was an explicit rape scene.
Get ready to wrap up your conversation.
So you may not like it. It's not probably the best book to start with.
It sounds like my experience with Paris, with the movie Parasite. I went in because it won Best Picture, and so I rented it. Thought it was
Did everyone have a chance to share with one another? And did anyone find very much in common with the person or people they were talking with? So that was pretty easy. Traveling is something we love usually, when all goes well. And it's not a very controversial topic. But that's just to give you kind of a taste of what the structure that we use in a lot of our workshops are, these little breakout groups of people just talking with one another. But would that have been different for you if I had asked you to discuss politics?
Well, yeah, no.
Well, you're making a really good point on that, yeah. What if it was discussing politics with someone with the opposing views that you have? Would that be uncomfortable? Yeah, and that's not really uncommon. I think most of us do feel that way. So at River Angels, so we try to dive into those difficult conversations and we seek opportunities to have those conversations in order to help close the gap that seems to be getting bigger every day between our two major parties in this country. I was gonna try not to get real political and I'm on the edge, so I'm gonna back off that a little bit. So just talk about things we might totally agree with someone on certain topics, and other times we don't, but it's important to keep in mind the Braver Angels way during our workshops, which I'm gonna read next. And this is what I was talking about earlier. I read to you later. It kind of reminds me of the Girl Scout pledge. When I was in scouting, kind of comes across as a pledge, but I think it's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful way to be in any group. The Braver Angels way is stating our views freely and fully without fear, We treat people who disagree with us with honesty, dignity, and respect. We welcome opportunities to engage with those with whom we disagree. We believe all of us have blind spots and none of us are not worth talking to. We seek to disagree accurately, avoiding exaggeration and stereotypes. We look for common ground where it exists, and if possible, find ways to work together. We believe that in disagreements, both sides share and learn. And in Braver Angels, neither side is teaching the other or giving feedback on how to say things or think differently. And again, we aren't trying to change another person's mind about anything. We're trying to change our reaction and our almost developing an empathic view of seeing people as people, not as some part of a party or group, but as people, as citizens. Our agenda today. Now, when I was teaching, I would have shown this right away. So to me, this comes way far into the presentation, but we're gonna do an experiential activity and talk more about depolarization, Braver Angels' impact, and ways to make a difference. Oh, and by the way, on the board over there, I put just some statistics nationwide. The 123 alliances mean that those alliances have a red and blue co-chair. We are a proto-alliance because we only have one co-chair. So the proto-alliances aren't even listed on the website, the Braver Angels website. But there's thousands of them in this country. And it's because we are having a hard time recruiting people from the conservative side of things. We've been in existence 7 years and have, I think there's more than 65,000 participants. If we add you guys, so we have 65,030. And held 5,500 events. The end of my presentation, I'll talk about ways you can make a difference and ways to sign up to get engaged if you're interested. This next activity is about addressing your inner polarizer. And this is the first activity that we have. If you go online and do you can do workshops online, I'll get to that later. But this is always where we like people to begin, is looking at your own juju, your own stuff. And Lynn's gonna pass around some pencils and excuse me, and this worksheet. And it helps us see our own biases in the way we think about the opposite party without being negative and emotional. So, pardon me?
I said, that's a big ask.
It isn't. It really does take practice. This isn't a one and done deal. This takes, I still work on myself. Every time I interact with someone who has opposing views, and I have to stop and think. What is it, I want to accomplish here? What relationship do I want to keep happening with this person? And frankly, sometimes you just have to walk away. Anyway, take 5 minutes and complete the survey. You don't have to complete it either if you don't want to. It can cause some uncomfortable feelings, and that's totally normal. I encourage you to go with your first reaction though, because that's usually the most natural and correct answer. Does anyone need more time? Okay. Let's see the hands go up. So I want you to find a partner again, but this time you don't need to share your answers. But talk about, and this is the affective part of ourselves, our feelings, our emotions. Talk about how taking this survey made you feel. And if there were any surprises for you. And I'll give you 5 minutes for that discussion.
Sure.
Partner. What's a partner?
How are you?
No, the same person is fine. That's a good question. Sometimes it's
So how did
easier.
taking this
You know,
make you feel?
if you're not doing anything too.
Yeah.
Kind of uncomfortable.
Groups of 3.
Made me be more objective
Yeah, I felt a little uncomfortable because I see that
Yours isn't the same as mine?
having attitudes that I'm not comfortable with. That I do
seen a couple of things lately. Yeah, I could see my own judgment. And I found myself thinking of people that I know, either in my family or humanizing their views or just understanding where they're coming from. Some are kind of
Oh, you're on the wrong side.
messed over.
Well, it's really easy. The answer is yes for all of us, except I was a little bit nicer and not.
Well, it's pretty, we go suggest how often do them
This points out to me that I tend to make snap judgments without
That's understandable, you don't sometimes do it.
Finding self-serving, that kind of self-seeking, that's all. And I don't hardly ever do loyalists. They're negative, self-serving because they want
I'm always thinking, I don't know how.
so you feel differently about people in power than the
right.
Understand really shit.
I don't think a lot of people that I know personally is very different. How do I find myself focusing
I don't know how to think about the people in power.
Outrageous and extreme for me is completely off because I would have to say that wonder how they can think that. Why they don't think differently. I don't think they're outrageous.
It's hard because a lot of it is
That
really
makes sense. Well, yes.
Bruce didn't resonate. Probably I find myself hearing the words, but that's people in my side.
Oh, wait, I didn't read that one because I stopped reading and I see this.
That one is
Comparing the worst people to their side. I don't even understand that.
No, I never think that because I don't understand the question.
and see you hit it across, he's on the other side, and they compare him, which is somebody that you trust, a news person.
I've never said those.
Yeah, it's just whether or not you constantly separate and compare people.
It would be interesting to have face-to-face conversation. Some of those people.
Right.
Yeah, yeah, I know.
But I find myself thinking, well, I could never get them to be honest with me.
Gotta make things fun. It needs to be fun. So that's my job. I like the Christian music. I like why is the Eagle band so much fun to dance to?
You would say often.
Yeah, but I don't.
Please take a minute.
But I also find that there are, I don't interact with people with opposing views. I used to, but lately, we just don't see those people anymore.
Yeah.
I'm not quite following, but I'm sure it's okay. But no, I'm just saying that when I feel like it's different. What is wrong with my That's basically for He made it about hate.
Yeah, he definitely has,
Well, and I don't think it's not even that. I just feel sorry for them because I feel like they don't get to
It's gonna be about 30 more seconds.
They don't agree with
Well,
like the
I
musician.
may be stealing your thunder, but another thing to ask is, why is it you think that's a problem? Where do you think what is it that what core belief do you have that makes you think that this is a good thing or a bad thing?
Wow, everyone had so many things to say about this. It just made my heart sing. And it really is a difficult thing to do sometimes, to look inward rather than outward, and look at how you might be contributing to any issues that may come up between you and someone with different political views.
But we're right.
And they, you know what, the other side would argue, everybody's right. Yeah, well, so, I mean, you're bringing up a good point, and there will be time for questions at the end, but I do want to say that, the whole idea of who's right and who's wrong is based when people are giving their opinions about something. If it's an ideological polarization, that's based on more on facts. And that's where our debates come in, and I'll talk more about those towards the end of my presentation too.
Could you repeat your question, though? We couldn't hear it. People started laughing too soon.
It wasn't a question, Annis, it was a statement. She said, but we're right.
She was answering in some way. She was answering something.
Did you make a statement before she said you're right? That's what, we didn't hear that.
Oh.
It's hard. I think you were saying it's hard.
it is hard to look inward and look at how you might be contributing to polarizing discussions with other people who differ from you. Yes.
Do you come across people that are more purple? And are they valuable to the organization?
Yes,
Because they can see things from both sides maybe?
yes,
Or
yes, and
some
yes.
issues or other issues, right?
Yes, yes, and again, towards the end of my presentation, I want to talk about the group dynamic, the formation, and the composition of Braver Angels. So, did anybody find that hard, this last activity, difficult? Does anyone want to share some highlight from their conversation
I'll share
or
something
insight?
that
Yes.
I brought up, which is a conversation I had with a neighbor recently, and we've been neighbors for 8 years. He's the nicest guy, he's so kind and generous, and I've always known that we were in different places politically. And somehow we got into a conversation, it wasn't heated or anything like that, but I asked him why he had his flag out all summer long, and what was his message about that? And, sincere interest in what was he saying. And he said, in the past, I didn't feel comfortable sharing my conservatism here.
Mhm.
And that was really just blew my mind that we were in a time in this country where people were uncomfortable sharing their political perspective. Now, I feel like the tables have turned, in terms of, he probably likes a lot of what's happening now, and I like very little. But I'm still not. I'm still a big mouth, and I have my political flags on the lawn, and I'm not giving up. But it would just change my whole view of this situation. And I don't have answers to it, but it still sits with me to think about what does that mean about this country.
Yeah, and what I noticed was you still refer to him as a neighbor. That's critical, not as some member of some political party, but as your neighbor and someone you see who has his own views, and but for him to be able to share his views does not mean you have to accept them.
Right.
And
we
that's
don't
the
go
big
into it.
difference, is sharing and accepting. We could have a whole workshop on that, but on that communication skill. But yeah, they're very different things. So one of the goals in Braver Angels is to allow people to share. And I'm gonna read some statistics about the crisis and polarization in our country that has social and personal costs to it. And it's a good segue from your comment. Thank you for sharing that. So some of these studies I found don't have dates, but some do. So I'm assuming they're all from 2024. So a Gallup poll showed that 89% of people are greatly divided on the most important issues facing us. A Fox News report revealed that 81% of people are concerned about political divisions in our country. A Johns Hopkins study showed that almost 50% of our electorate thinks that the opposing party isn't just wrong about their politics, but they are downright evil.
How many?
50% of people think the opposing political party is downright evil, or thinking the way they do. 2021 CBS poll showed, this is 2021, okay. 54% of those polled thought the biggest threat to the American way of life was other Americans not an outside threat from another country, but from our own citizens, fellow citizens. I just think that is just horrific. And 51% thought political violence would increase, and 71% thought democracy was threatened, and this was 4 years ago. Some studies report that more than 30% of us have stopped talking to people permanently because of political disagreements. And public agenda polling found that almost 20% of us have experienced anxiety, depression, and extreme sadness as a result of partisan disagreements. And I bet those numbers are higher today. There's a lot of really upset people in our country on both sides. And so, but the good news is that we have one thing we have in common with most Americans is that we don't want this depolarization. The majority of people do not want this. That we're caught in a vicious cycle because our beliefs and our lack of trust in the opposite political party just keeps perpetuating a lot of this division among us. 2023 poll by the Walton Family Foundation, 80% of the people think it's important to listen to people with different points of view. In a Making Caring Common project, caring common project, only 15% of respondents were interested in having a conversation with people in the opposite political party, but when they were told that they were listened to with respect, that number jumped to 61%. So people are more willing to engage in conversations when they perceive you treating them with respect and dignity. The Public Agenda reports that more than 50% of Americans believe that well-organized opportunities for people to get together and discuss ideas for addressing polarization and other problems in their communities would help bring the country together. And this is where Braver Angels comes in. And we take deep dives into these conversations in a very structured, highly structured approach to how the events are run and moderated. And then the discussions that happen after the event itself is highly structured. So getting to know one another's values and what's important to them can help us bridge this political divide between us. I'm going to show you next, and you'll notice, let's see, in this, I got behind on my slides, sorry. So this is the first Red-Blue workshop that took place right after the Trump-Clinton election in 2016. And one of the co-founders, Bill Doherty, he taught at the University of Minnesota, and he was also a family therapist. And so you'll see him apply some of those skills and be thinking about why maybe his career helped him during this. Now, the interviews with these people are before and after. It doesn't show the actual workshop, but the contrast is, I think, remarkable. Now, the volume wasn't working on this last time, so I'm going to see if I can get it to work.
In April of 2017, in the small Rust Belt town of Lebanon, Ohio, 8 Republicans and 8 Democrats, despite all their fear and apprehensions, were brought together by a new organization called Better Angels.
We wanted to see if it was possible for people who had just voted for Trump or just voted for Clinton to spend a weekend talking to one another in a good way.
I love Don Trump. A lot of people don't. And I think it's not his personality. He's a man that has given his life for his country, if you think about it. And that's why I love him.
Factories have been closing down left and right, so I've seen a lot of forced retirements, a lot of forced layoffs. Well, the government is just taking over and it just needs to quit. You need our jobs back.
I've had the door slammed in my face. I've had people say very rude things about Obama and ask if I voted for him. I feel like racism is back again. I feel like it's popular to be dumb. It's scary for me and it's scary for my children. My biggest concern is the divide. We are so far apart and it's hard to communicate and get along and understand each other.
Sometimes to speak to an atheist or a person that's not conservative, have the same beliefs as me, a person of a different color. I'll tell you, I'll be honest with you. Right now, I kind of feel afraid to open my mouth.
These interviews of the participants in the Better Angels workshop were followed by several hours of exchanges led by Dr. Bill Doherty of the University of Minnesota, who developed the Better Angels methodology.
What happened was that they changed their views of each other. You know, they formed a relationship with each other of respect so that they can find some ways to work together for the common good. It's not compromising and it's not converting.
The way this weekend affected me is I showed emotions I kept hidden for a long time. This is the first time I've cried in a couple of years, actually.
We talked to people this weekend. I was very, very impressed with the dynamics of it. If you did 20,000 of these across the nation, you would change the world. I truly believe that.
If more people will have this experience, I think maybe our country could come back together and pull together as one and learn to share and understand it's okay to have opposing ideas. It's okay to be different. We are still human. We still love one another. And that country needs that again.
You know, America has been around for a couple hundred years or so, even more. And these challenges at some form always existed, and American people have always been able to solve these problems. And I mean, this is not, we are going into an uncharted territory. This is not our first presidential election. This is not our first controversial campaign.
This thing should go on and on and on. This what we just did this weekend should not stop. This should go on to the next county, to the next state, and to the end of the city and back out into the country and down every highway. So that's what it should do.
To help advance this depolarization effort, contact Better Angels at www.better-angels.org. That's www.better-angels.org.
There were some differences between the before and after interviews. People seemed a lot calmer. Did anyone notice anything else?
Did anybody, what was the
Yeah,
question?
They were happier.
Joyce.
They were happier.
Yes, happier.
And there was a obvious trust between people that wasn't there before.
Yeah, that's a great observation. One quick observation I noticed when I watched this video for the first time is that Bill Doherty is referred to as the founder of Better Angels. We used to be called Better Angels based on Lincoln's inaugural address where he talked about the better angels of our nature. But there is a Better Angels Society that focuses on American history, and they have the name copyrighted. So we had to change our name to Braver Angels. And one thing I'm glad, and people don't even know what, I mean, they think it's kind of a religious group, but I'm just thankful that they didn't change our name to Brighter Angels. Because I think that would be kind of strange. It doesn't take intellect to do this, it takes a heart to engage with people different than us.
Could I-
So,
could I say something?
impact of Brave Angels is, I talked about that a little bit with the, number of participants and, I see I only have 10 minutes and I do wanna, open it up for questions here. I think one thing that, I would like you to do next is on the back of that survey you took is another handout. And just take a couple of minutes to read. There's almost 20 suggestions, there's 19 actually, I think. Just tips on how to use Brave Angels in your conversations. And then think about which would be easiest for you to do and which might be most difficult. Did everyone have time to get through them? I'm not gonna ask you to pair off again, just because of time, but just be aware of which ones you might want to adopt and help increase your interactions with people that differ from you in your views. So the impact findings, I'm gonna click through these. Participants from Braver Angels workshops in general feel more comfortable with the other party. We change perceptions of each other and not their views on political issues. They learn useful information and find events well run. Now, I can't make any promises about Braver Angels Central Oregon since we haven't had an event yet, but we're gonna do our best to make it run well.
And how long are the events?
About an hour.
That's it?
Uh-huh.
Because in that video, they spend a weekend.
Well, that was the very first workshop. Yeah, we won't do any retreats like that. Now that workshop lasts about an hour, and you're actually paired up with one other person from the opposite party and just spend the whole hour talking,
This was one.
using the guidelines.
I'll have to take extra blood pressure
Whatever it takes.
Maybe a valley.
So, I'm looking for this horseshoe. There. All right, so some of the emotions on that first survey we took, they're in red here. These are the affective polarizing words people use to describe the other party. Hatred, disdain, pity, and then on the more positive side, basic respect and respectful appreciation should happen over time by applying some of these communication skills. Up at the top, across the top of the arch are what you might hear people say or even say yourself about the other side. And then the view, white area, I guess I'll call that the middle, where it says want to harm the country, ignorant and should know better. Those are other phrases that we might hear. So personally, I I've just recently started moving across the center top. They've been duped. But again, it takes some time to move along that arch. I don't think you guys have, I didn't provide you with a printout of that, I don't think, but you can find it online on our website, which is braverangels.org. That's the national website. So there's a lot of ways to become involved. We have locally not established these, but we have a model to follow if we choose to do the braver schools and braver campuses where we engage college kids in debates and voter registration. We're starting to work with K through 12 schools at the national level. Braver Citizens is organizing people at the grassroots level to come together to improve our community. There's Braver Media, which is social media and print media. Braver Network of over 300 organizations that are involved with Braver Angels. And the Braver Arts, which is well, I would call it humanities, Braver Humanities. There's Braver Politics. And I was going to share a story about a stop sign that took 10 years before the city council could decide whether or not to put one in their town. And in that 10-year period, a lot of newly elected people came and went. And finally, people just got sick of it. And, people that wanted the stop sign said 10 years is too long. So they called in a Braver Angels group to mediate. And they got the stop sign, but it was in a compromised. They compromised on the location. So it was a win-win for everybody. So that's the end of my presentation. Do you have any questions? Thank you.
Thank you, Ann. Before we leave, I asked Representative Liu was at the last town hall and she talked about Braver Angels, and I thought perhaps she'd like to come and share her thoughts on it and her work on the state level. And also she commented about how they work across the lines with Reese Iverson and Michael Lane, whatever his first name. Anyway, and I just think that's so positive. And she also went out to an event out east where it was nonpartisan with a lot of other state legislators and how they talk to each other at that level. And then they go to Washington and they hate each other. And so anyway, so I just thought perhaps she'd like to share a little bit of her experiences.
Thank you. I will be really quick and then I've got to jump to a call, but thank you for inviting me, Carol. I think I know all of you in this room, I'm pretty sure. But for those who don't know me, I am Emerson Levy. I represent Ben Redmond Sisters, Black Butte, and Tumalo. So I'm the state rep for Braver Angels in the House, and then Janine Solomon is the rep for Braver Angels in the Senate. And we are just getting started. We're having an event for all of our colleagues at the end of September. So we're going to do a breakfast. We talked about doing this workshop, and we don't think that we're quite there to do the workshop first. We just need to get our toes wet. We just came out of a really tough tax vote, and it's going to take some work to repair. But I would actually, in what I was sharing with Carol, I would say where that repair really needs to happen is actually within party. So many of you know I've been getting lots of threats just because I'm Jewish and existing as a human. And all of those threats have come from my own party. Oh. I have actually not had to go to the police with any threats from the other side. Wow. They send me stuff, don't worry. But it hasn't risen to a level of this is a threat to my family or this is a threat to me. So, and I see that within each caucus too. And when I talk to Vicki and others, the inner caucus dynamics are really tough, right? Because they're going towards the extremes. And when I looked at that sheet of paper, I don't think this about my Republican colleagues. I think this about some of the more extreme people in my party. If it's not perfect, we're not going to vote for it. If it's not, and on the conservative side, we're going to burn it all down. And then there's those of us in the middle that just want to do good work. But it was an opportunity for me to even look at my own language of how I feel in my own caucus sometimes, of how I can just $34 hour minimum wage is never going to happen. That's wasting our time and our energy, right? But there's a better way to approach that. And so what I asked Braver Angels to do is say, actually, can we do this within our own caucus? Like, it would be good for me to see, for some of the people who, in my party that are more extreme, like what motivates them, why, and that's part of the journey, to see each other better, because we're at a point where it is Democrat on Democrat violence right now on the state level, and we see that less on the Republican side. And so when I think about democracy as a whole, if we're going to eat each other, they'll be remaining firm. And so really not only how we talk to the other side, but how we talk to each other as we disagree. And I apologize, I have to run. I have a call about insurance. But thank you all for having me, and thank Carol for inviting me.
Thank you.
I have a sign-up sheet. If you would like to put your name and email and phone number, you don't have to include your phone number if you don't want, then I'd be able to send you our first Baco Bits newsletter and also any other information about Braver Angels that's going to be happening. We don't have a routine way to advertise yet. So, and also we're just looking for more members to join. Anyone can come to our events, just like Believe. But membership allows you to be able to engage in more things, especially online. One thing I want to talk about a little bit, though, can I have one more minute?
Sure.
Just fast, okay. Then I'll read it. So I was looking at the commonalities between Braver Angels and League of Women Voters. And we both work from a framework of stated principles rather than partisan politics. We create a platform for citizens that have differing views to engage with one another and find common ground. We combat misinformation and disinformation. We both address complex issues like immigration, reproductive rights, climate, and the environment. We both want to dive into those hard discussions. We both engage young voters and enhance candidate forums, and we both focus on increasing the skills and knowledge of members. So I thought it was a little fun exercise to do, and I wanted to share it with you.
Thank you.
And please
Just
feel
see the
free
parallels
to share
between us.
your events in our newsletter so that our other members who aren't here today would know and perhaps be able to join your events.
Thank you. And likewise, I will share the first Thursday presentation in our newsletter.
Perfect.
To encourage. And then, can I have one more quick one? There's a huge urban-rural divide on our side of the mountains. And so Braver Angels does have an urban-rural project. It's structured a little bit different than Braver Angels Central Oregon. And they're more focused on the legislative impact they can have on legislative issues. So I just wanted to put that out there. The co-chair of that lives in Washington County, but she comes over here pretty often. So Joyce had a chance to meet with her. And yeah, I think that's good work she's doing too. Anyway, thanks for coming today.
Thank you.